Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you're part of our journey. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready for a story that will leave you thinking. And if you love inspiring tales, a like goes a long way. We can't help your son without payment first. Words that shattered a father's world at 5 a.m. in St. Mary's Hospital corridor. The silence that followed was suffocating, broken only by the distant beeping of life support machines. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across the administrator's face as she slid the forms back across the counter. Behind her, doctors and nurses moved with practiced efficiency, saving lives that insurance would cover. In the waiting area, the father clutched his son's medical file, hands trembling, eyes red from a sleepless night of desperate calls to family and loan companies. What no one noticed was the man in the black jacket sitting in the corner, baseball cap pulled low, watching the scene unfold. In the next 10 minutes, everything would change, and by morning, the hospital's payment before treatment policy would face a reckoning no one expected. If this moment made you feel something, imagine what's coming next. Hit that like button and stay with us. Subscribe now. Michael Townsend hadn't slept in 48 hours. His son's condition had deteriorated rapidly over the weekend, and the emergency room doctor had finally confirmed his worst fears. Without immediate surgery, 7-year-old Jamie wouldn't make it through the week. A rare heart condition, they said. Treatable, but expensive. Michael had insurance, but with a deductible so high it might as well have been written in another language. When the administrator quoted the deposit required before they would schedule surgery, the amount echoed in his head like a death sentence. "I can give you everything I have," he whispered, voice breaking. "I can sign whatever you need. Please just help my son first." The administrator's face remained impassive. She'd heard these pleas before. Hospital policy was clear. No exceptions. "I'm sorry, Mr. Townsend, but without the deposit, we simply cannot schedule the procedure. Perhaps there's a relative who could help, or a crowdfunding option." Her voice carried down the corridor, where a young nurse bit her lip and looked away. A security guard shifted uncomfortably near the entrance, pretending not to listen. The morning shift was arriving, healthcare professionals stepping around the scene as if emotional breakdowns were just another hazard of the hospital floor. "He's 7 years old," Michael said, his voice rising despite his efforts to stay calm. Heads turned, phones emerged from pockets recording the confrontation. "Are you telling me my son's life has a price tag? That you'll let him die because I don't have enough credit?" The administrator's voice hardened. "Sir, please lower your voice. This is a hospital, not a marketplace. Our policies exist for a reason." She reached for the phone, likely to call security. In that moment, the man in the corner stood, coffee cup forgotten on the side table. Even with the cap and casual clothes, something about his movement was familiar. The deliberate grace, the quiet confidence. He approached the counter without hurry, eyes focused on Michael rather than the administrator. "Excuse me," the stranger said, voice unexpectedly gentle. "I couldn't help overhearing." He removed his sunglasses and a collective gasp rippled through the growing audience. The security guard froze mid-step. The administrator's hand hovered over the phone. It was Keanu Reeves, not as John Wick or Neo, but as himself, standing in a hospital corridor at dawn, about to change the trajectory of a family's darkest hour. Things are about to take a turn. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe, like our video, and keep watching. Keanu placed himself between Michael and the administrator, his presence transforming the atmosphere. Phones captured every moment, but he paid them no attention. "What's your name?" he asked Michael, ignoring the administrator completely. Michael Townsend," came the bewildered reply. My son Jamie needs surgery." Keanu nodded, as if this conversation was the most natural thing in the world. "Jamie, how old?" "7. Michael's voice cracked. "Congenital heart defect. They say without surgery this week." He couldn't finish. Keanu turned to the administrator, who now stood straighter, her professional mask slipping to reveal recognition and unease. The hospital corridor had grown unnaturally quiet. Every whispered conversation suspended, every movement paused. Even the doctors stopped to watch, white coats frozen in the harsh fluorescent light. "What's the exact amount needed for Jamie's surgery to proceed?" Keanu asked, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of steel that anyone who'd seen his films would recognize. The administrator stammered, caught between hospital policy and the unexpected presence of Hollywood royalty. "Mr. Reeves, this is a private matter. We have protocols." "The amount," Keanu repeated, not unkindly but with unmistakable firmness. The contrast between his gentle demeanor and resolute stance created an electric tension in the air. $87,000, Michael answered when the administrator hesitated. "That's what they need before they'll even schedule the surgery." A collective intake of breath swept through the onlookers. The sum hung in the air like an indictment of the healthcare system itself. A young resident doctor stepped forward, then retreated, conflict evident on her face. "I understand policies," Keanu said, addressing the administrator directly. "But I also understand that right now, there's a 7-year-old boy whose life depends on adults doing the right thing." He took out his phone, never breaking eye contact. "I'd like to speak to the hospital director. Immediately." The administrator's demeanor shifted, professional certainty crumbling under the weight of public attention and moral scrutiny. "The director isn't available until—" "Then find someone who is available," Keanu interrupted, his voice carrying that quiet authority that made theater audiences hold their breath. He turned back to Michael. "May I see Jamie?" Before the administrator could object, an older doctor approached, ID badge identifying him as the head of cardiology. "Mr. Reeves, Mr. Townsend, I'm Dr. Patel. Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more private." His eyes darted meaningfully to the growing crowd of staff and patients, many with phones recording. "With respect, Doctor," Keanu replied, "I think this conversation needs witnesses." The statement hung in the air, a challenge to the system itself rather than any individual. Social media was already exploding with live updates from the scene, hashtags forming around number Keanu Hospital Hero and number Jamie Townsend. The administrator's phone rang and her expression shifted as she listened. Whatever was being said changed the equation dramatically. She hung up, visibly shaken. "The director would like to speak with you, Mr. Reeves." And she swallowed hard. "Doctor, Patel has been authorized to prepare Jamie for pre-op assessment immediately." Michael's knees nearly buckled. Keanu's hand steadied him as the weight of 48 sleepless hours and devastating fear threatened to overwhelm him. This story is only getting deeper. What would you do in this situation? Comment below, and let's talk. The hospital director arrived within minutes, smoothing his tie as he approached. His entrance was that of a man accustomed to managing crises, but the presence of Keanu Reeves standing alongside a desperate father had clearly thrown him off script. Camera phones followed his every move as he extended his hand first to Keanu, then to Michael. "Mr. Reeves, Mr. Townsend, I'm Thomas Whitfield, hospital director. Let's resolve this situation." "The situation," Keanu said with gentle emphasis, "is that a child needs life-saving surgery, and your hospital is placing financial barriers before his care." His words weren't accusatory but stated as simple fact, all the more damning for their calm delivery. Director Whitfield's smile tightened. Our hospital provides millions in charitable care annually, Mr. Reeves. But we can't operate without— I understand economics, Keanu interrupted. What I don't understand is why you're still talking to us instead of preparing Jamie for surgery. The corridor fell silent as he reached into his jacket and withdrew a checkbook. How much did you say was needed? $87,000. Michael stepped forward. Mr. Reeves, I can't let you— You can, and you will, Keanu said quietly, already writing. For Jamie. He tore the check with deliberate care and handed it to the director. $100,000. Any remaining amount after Jamie's treatment goes to your pediatric care fund for the next family who finds themselves in this position. The director accepted the check with visible discomfort, aware of the dozens of recording devices capturing his every expression. His career trajectory had just intersected with a viral moment he couldn't control. And I'll need to see Jamie receive immediate care, Keanu continued. Not in an hour, not after paperwork. Now. The statement wasn't a request. Around them, hospital staff watched their director balance institutional protocol against imminent public relations disaster. Of course, the director finally conceded. Dr. Patel, please proceed with all necessary preparations for emergency surgery. His eyes found Michael. Mr. Townsend, I sincerely apologize for your experience this morning. I assure you this is not typical of our— But it is typical, interrupted a nurse who had been silently watching. I've seen this happen 3 times this month alone. Her badge read, Sophia Chen, RN. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice remained steady. People beg for care they can't afford while we hide behind policies. A ripple of murmurs spread through the staff. The director's face flushed with anger, but before he could respond, Keanu spoke again. Sometimes systems fail the people they're designed to protect, he said, addressing everyone now. And when that happens, it takes courage to acknowledge it. His gaze moved from the nurse to the director, and wisdom to fix it. The moment hung in perfect balance, a Hollywood star wielding not fame, but simple human decency as his power. Then, Michael Townsend, ordinary father thrust into extraordinary circumstances, fell to his knees, not in supplication, but in pure relief. Dr. Patel immediately knelt beside him, offering support and quiet assurance about Jamie's prognosis. Keanu helped Michael to his feet, the two men's eyes meeting in an unspoken understanding that transcended their different worlds. Let's go see your son, Keanu said simply, as staff rushed to prepare for the surgery that would save Jamie's life. It's not over yet. The best part is coming. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. By noon, Jamie Townsend was in surgery, his prognosis cautiously optimistic according to Dr. Patel's team. The hospital corridor that had witnessed the morning's drama now buzzed with activity of a different kind. Administrative staff huddled in urgent meetings while the PR department fielded calls from major news outlets. The video had gone viral within hours, with celebrities and politicians weighing in on healthcare accessibility. Keanu remained quietly sitting with Michael in the surgical waiting room, declining the private accommodations offered by the increasingly accommodating hospital administration. He deflected attention, ensuring that every inquiry focused on Jamie and the broader issue at stake rather than his own intervention. When reporters attempted to enter the hospital, it was Keanu who suggested they redirect their energy toward covering the thousands of families facing similar healthcare barriers nationwide. By evening, the hospital director announced an emergency review of all billing practices and the establishment of an expedited care fund for pediatric emergencies. Donations flooded in from across the country, inspired by Keanu's quiet act of compassion. What began as one man's desperate plea for his son had catalyzed a conversation about health care priorities that trended across every social platform. Nurse Chen, who had found her voice in that pivotal moment, became an unexpected spokesperson, appearing on morning shows to discuss the reality of healthcare barriers. The administrator who had initially denied Jamie's care requested a transfer to billing review, stating she could no longer be the face of policies she struggled to defend. Throughout it all, Keanu declined interviews, issuing only a brief statement. "This isn't about me. It's about Jamie and every child who deserves care regardless of their parents' financial situation." 3 days later, as Jamie recovered with his father by his side, Keanu visited one last time. No cameras captured their conversation, but hospital staff noted the actor's genuine smile as Jamie showed him a drawing of what appeared to be Keanu as a superhero. Before leaving, Keanu left his private number with Michael, asking for updates on Jamie's recovery and offering ongoing support if needed. What remained after the media cycle moved on was more than a viral moment or a celebrity intervention. It was a reminder that systems are made by people and can be changed by people, that compassion, when wielded with conviction, can overcome institutional barriers. In the weeks that followed, 2 other hospitals announced similar emergency care funds, citing the Townsend Protocol for pediatric cases. And somewhere in Hollywood, Keanu Reeves returned to his work, unchanged by his brief moment in the spotlight for simply being himself. A man who understood that true power lies not in wealth or fame, but in the courage to stand beside those who need it most when systems fail them. Wow, what a story! If this moved you, imagine what else we have for you. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let us know what you think.